Good evening. Our title of the paper is Partition, Migration and History of Uprooted Bengali in Bay Islands. The partition of India leads a great catastrophe of human displacement in the history of mankind on earth. Millions of families were uprooted and migrated from their ancestral places without their consent. On the one side, a major section of the community enjoyed the fruits of independence and celebrated the freedoms of their respective countries. Migrants had lost their human dignity and socio-economic status. They were forced to leave of all social, cultural, and economic relationship with their regular homes and were compelled to live at a lower social and financial strata in India. Millions of uprooted families were forced to live in a severe hostile environment. According to Murphy, the displaced person on the one side said goodbye to not just a plot of land but one's entire tradition, one's home life, and one's language group. To manage these millions of refugees in Indian states becomes a challenge for provincial government of border states. The local people of these areas were also unprepared to accept these families in their surrounding, who where these families took shelter. Most vulnerable situation was faced by the local official who managed these affairs. As a result, the fundamental aspect was the emerging refugee society and gained a little respect in post-partition days among the bureaucratic circle in particular and in Indian society at a large. Partition adversely affected the female folk, who were greater sufferers as refugees, forced migrants or displaced persons. This pattern was noticed even during the partition. Women were not only killed but were often raped and abused. They were also abducted in large numbers. About 2 million people were decomposed, 10,000s of women raped and ravaged, and about 15 million rendered homeless. Women were vulnerable and raped by other communities to demonstrate their masculine competence. The outcome of the Partition Act, described by the BP Menon, the uprooted millions were in terrible mental state. They had been derived from their homes under condition of undescribable horror and misery. Status and division among refugees. Among the migrants, the wealthy and economically sound families forced face comfortable situation in India or receiving state. They did not take any government shelter in India. They did not live with the tag of refugee. Because of their financial background and social network, Bhadralok did not depend on government support for resettlement in Bengal or other parts of India. These Bhadralok Bengalis managed to self-rehabilitate in Bengal and got warm welcome in Indian politics with good position. It was this Bhadralok community that was the mainstream base of Congress party in West Bengal. On the other hand, thousands of families recognized as refugees were basically poor, landless, and small landholding classes. They were socially, economically backward and belonged to lower caste Hindu. They took shelter in various pockets and later occupied government land and private properties. Miss Joya Chatterjee narrated the ugly situation of these millions of poor families. The West Bengal administration tried to enforce law to prevent illegal occupation of private property. The authorities was more interested to protect the rights of the rich in total disregard of the hardship of the refugees. When Badala community was welcomed in Congress and deprived millions of people received support from Communist Party in Bengal. The refugees became driving force of Communist Party. The party put pressure on West Bengal and central government to accommodate the deprived proletariat class in Bengal only. When when central government was planning to shift these families in other states to give little bit relief to the Bengal government, the communist leaders, especially who had come from East Pakistan, opposed this move to central government as well as Bengal state government. Hundred thousands of the unfortunate families were shifted to Dandakarana project in Haryana, Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh, and various others refugee camps in other states. Uprooted people in unknown island destination. To rehabilitate these thousands of families in Andaman Islands, a project was put before Ministry of Relief and Rehabilitation under Government of India. The then Chief Minister of West Bengal, Dr. Bidhan Chandra Roy, convinced the Congress government at center to develop a colony for newly arrived refugees from East Pakistan. Accordingly, 199 families to two batches sailed in March 1949 for Andamans. To accelerate the rehabilitation of Bengali refugees in Andaman rural area, the Ministry of Central Relief and Rehabilitation along with the Bengal government decided to depute few top officials from Bengali background to accelerate and officiate with the Bengali refugee. Later, the West Bengal government engaged renowned anthropologist Professor Surajit Sinha to make a survey in Andaman for possibility of rehabilitation of Bengali refugees in future. The sudden arrival of a chunk of Bengali families in rural Andaman under colonization schemes created a new dimension in island socio-political setup. The old settlers family refused to accept the entry of any family from mainland India. They felt that there was a smoke of conspiracy in schemes to disrupt the social integrity and harmony of the local community by bringing in the Bengali culture and thus deharmonizing the multi-ethnic unity of this isolated island. The local community blamed the union government as well as West Bengal government for encouraging the colonization policy. Thus, they formed Andaman Indian Association. This association submitted a memorandum to the State Reorganization Commission not to rehabilitate East Pakistan refugees as it would disrupt the homogeneity of Andaman Indians. In this regard, the local leaders mobilized the minor communities among old settlers like Moplas, Tamils, Malayalis, and Telugus to express their anguish against the settlement of families from mainland. The growing feelings of grievances among the local band was that the privileges and facilities had been provided to newly arrived Bengali settlers at the expenses of the old settlers. The local bond were still struggling to pull their shuttering economy. A cloud of suspicion developed among the local community because of the growth in the number of Bengali families along with Bengali officials in the local administration, including Chief Commissioner Sri A.K. Ghosh and Sri S.N. Maitra from Bengal, who were attached to rehabilitation program. In an interview with Secretary Andaman Indian Association Sri K.R. Ganesh by Professor Surajit Sinha revealed that the leaders of the Andaman Indians are a bit suspicious that this refugee rehabilitation scheme is a part of including Andamans into West Bengal. Preponderance of Bengali high official in the local staff is supposed to be have given rise to that suspicion. A rumor was that this widespread during this period was that the islands were going to be merged with West Bengal. The theory of Bangalistan was established by the local people and some leaders. Later, it became a political issue whether in future the government of India would like to incorporate union territory within the province of West Bengal. Under the leadership of K.R. Ganesh, they staged dharna and sent representations and conducted a meeting to raise their voice against this provocation of Bangalistan. To make Under the leadership of Vijay Pal Singh, Secretary Local Congress Committee staged dharna shouting the blaring slogan, Bangal ki saath nahi milna chahte hai. We do not want to merge with Bengal. Due to the absence of any kind of democratic organization or party, the local leaders were unable to put forth their grievances before the administration. The islanders, in fact, were isolated in all respects. In 1951, Indian National Congress launched its organizational setup under the presidentships of Sri Rajendra Lal Shah. The nominations of John Richardson from the Nicobar tribal community was of the first member of parliament for Lok Sabha from these islands. It was an wholeheartedly not accepted by the local community. The people of the local community were support feelings that they were suffocated under the democratic situation. Sri K.R. Ganesh, the trade union leaders and secretary of the Andaman Indian Association, had shown his discontentment over the work style of local officers and bureaucratization of local administration by the top official. Sri Ganesh narrated, "It is very tempting to say that everything lies in the lap of God. In this case, however, the gods are the government. These chief commissioners and other senior officials are sent from the mainland. They have no interest in the lives of the local people or the future. The poor islanders find a change in official setup, but it is only a change from white imperialism to brown imperialism. Another problems cropped it cropped it upon regarding the renamings of Andaman Nicobar Island. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose visited Andaman on 29th December 1943 and took over the islands from the control of Japanese government and wished to rename these islands as Shahid and Swaraj in the memory of martyrs of Indian freedom struggle. But after the independence of India, when it was asked before the K.R. Ganeshan, the alone elected member of the parliament by the MPs from the West Bengal about the renaming of this island, but he was turned down, and he said, "Our history did not start in 1943. We are the son of some of the victims of the revolutionaries of the 1857 revolution. The name of the Andaman is in our soul. The tribes of Andamans are known with this name. We do not want to give up our soul. We will not be having any name if it is changed. Our name cannot be allowed to be changed." The uprooted Bengali families had to undergo lots of hardships and uncertainty in these initial stages of their resettlement lives. But few educated Bengalis tried to draw the attention of the local official towards their grievances. They formed Vandur Village Upliftment Association. Later, on 10th May 1951, under the leadership of Sri Binay Chakraborty, Bangyo Upanivesh Samiti was formed. According to Dr. Sinha, the idea behind the formation of association and their representation to the local official. On the other hand, other side is the assumption that the refugees were willing to utilize this fullest extent, the unique opportunity thus offered, and are determined to turn themselves into useful citizens of this island. However, the local authorities had their reservation regarding the association and their movements, as they suspected that the association was being supported by the Communist Party of India in West Bengal. The party was dead against the schemes of transforming the Bengali refugees outside Bengal. The local administration did not allow any association to create an atmosphere which would act as a deterrent to the rehabilitation program. However, Sri Samar Chaudhary and other Bengalis lead the uprooted Bengali in their common cause. Sri Chaudhary formed Settle Association which primarily tried to focus the plight of newly settled family. Under colonization schemes, 2,411 families were brought between 1949 to 61 with about 12,406 individuals in 13 batches. Later, in between 1964 to 1973, under rehabilitation schemes, around 500 families were settled in Neil Islands, Little Andaman, and families settled were from the Barishal, Faridpur, Jashore, Dhaka, and Khulna in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. The initial life of the hundreds of the refugees settled in Andaman was full of challenges. Their families were brought on when they disembarked, faced hesitation from the local people who did not accept these immigrated Bengali families from mainland to be settled in this island. The settlement families were engaged to settle this, bring those families from the transit camp and from the railway platform individuals also failed to identify the cultivator families. The simple Bengali speaking rural families from East Pakistan were not familiar with the Hindi or Urdu language, so it becomes a major problem for refugees to communicate with the local people. The local authorities had their reservation regarding the association and the movement among the Bengali families. They subsisted, and as a whole, it is we can say that the this absence of minimum amenities and basic facilities like temporary transit sector, water sanitation, medical schools was strongly faced by the first generation and their children. To change an uncertain Kalapani life to a settled one was a long journey for each and every individual of this uprooted family who built a colony 1,000 kilometers away from mainland. Thank you.